On this week's program, once again, the pointy hat is just a dunce cap. Dave Con asks questions and doesn't like the answer. Die in Place has platitudes about how to kill your game. Memes Lich is misaligned. Jenny D tells you not to buy D&D. The Basic Expert highlights the interesting parallels between the law cow and the law clown. Patio Cakes makes a big mistake. And Critical Role ends up in a catch-22 because of a man who doesn't understand numbers. Welcome to Driving and Dragons. I'm Daniel, and today I am here to drive myself crazy looking at all the lunacy that happened in the world of TTRPGs this week with intelligence as a dump stat. Mama said there'd be days like this, but she never mentioned the part about bleeding freely from the ears. Before you pound your head against your desk to the point that you lose the ability to tie your own shoes, take a second to do all the YouTube stuff for me. Hit the like button, then share it because misery loves company. Try to one-up me down in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, and if you are feeling sorry for my suffering, drop me a super thanks or sticker or whatever because, get me some money from YouTube so I can buy myself a BC headache powder. If you're really feeling supportive, join the garage over at Patreon, link in the description, where you can join our little King of the Hill reenactment and stand around and look inside the engine bay of my car and say things like, yep, that's right. Some channels have like special streams or early video releases on Patreon. Me, Alamo beer in the driveway, buddy. It does really go a long way, though, to help the channel. An update on the Dodge Dart. New York has finally issued a clear title, so I am back on the hunt for a shipping company to bring it here without requiring both an arm and a leg to do so. So that's enough shilling. After all, I'm not Bob Worldbuilder. Let's get down to business. We start off with Pointy Hat. Those who watched me practically foam at the mouth reacting to his video on alignment can tell you my general thoughts on old Antonio. Well, those have not changed. In that video, he showed a tremendous amount of smug condescension while displaying total ignorance of Tolkien, and this time he chose to do the same with Lovecraft. He dropped a video about how D&D has a Lovecraft problem and how cosmic horror doesn't really fit with D&D. And that's about the only thing that he got right. Aside from the typical demonization of Lovecraft himself and linking his dislike and fear of anything not from upper-class New England to modern people who disagree with Pointy Hat politically, Hat also showed that he lacks an understanding of what Lovecraftian horror is and how it works. To spare you the brain-scraping annoyance of his voice, I'll summarize. While he may have mentioned some elements of actual cosmic horror, it quickly became obvious that Pointy Hat just equates Lovecraft to some kind of weird tentacle monster. That's right, folks. In the world of Pointy Hat, there's no real difference between Call of Cthulhu and Japanese cartoon pornos besides the reason for the screaming. His entire video amounted to use aberrations out of the monster manual. This kind of crap falls into the category of what I like to call offensively stupid. It's offensive to anyone who has taken the time to so much as glance at a Lovecraft-adjacent Wikipedia page that Pointy Hat would put out an advice video with so little effort put into the research. But that's also the problem with the tour guides. They have an incredibly shallow understanding of the hobby, so it isn't like they have a deep well to draw content from. On the other end of the spectrum, Dave Con apparently got their panties in a bunch and asked, should conventions give away gaming space to a game company's organized play? Now, I took this as an honest invitation to discuss the topic. Silly me. It was really them wanting people to jump in behind them and bash the mean old greedy corporations for asking for free tables. After a quick back and forth where he wanted to argue the examples instead of the points, it became obvious that he wasn't going to get the point. Here's the deal, folks. Everything in this world is a value exchange, especially in business. When you ask a question like, should an entity get to participate in my event for free? There really are only two questions to ask. Will I make more money in additional sales than I would from their table fee if they're here? And will they only participate if I don't charge them? Hell, sometimes you actually have to pay them to show up. The example I gave was that if you had the chance to have Matt Mercer run a table at your convention, you would pay him to attend. Forget a free table. You'd cover his hotel bill and his travel. Why? Because him being there, running games, would undoubtedly increase your ticket sales, likely allow you to raise prices not just on attendees but also on other companies, and also open up avenues to make more money, such as raffling off seats in his games. If Kelsey Dion says, I'd love to set up a booth, but DaveCon isn't part of my marketing budget this year, the question becomes, will having the Shadow Dark booth bring in enough extra traffic to justify the expense? This is just business 101. I have a thing of value, a table at my con. You need to give me something I find more valuable to get that table. That thing may be a pocket full of cash, or it may be all the hype and attention that you bring. Die in Place had a bit of a slip on X. In his case, it really seems to be more of a character limit thing than a truly bad take, if I give him the benefit of the doubt. But he posted that RPG systems are less important than the adventures, and that he can have fun with D20, THAC0, D6, D12, etc. And while I feel that the sentiment he is driving at is good, that without good content, how good the system is really doesn't matter, and that you can really enjoy any system as long as the content is good, he's missing something here. Choosing the wrong system can ruin a session. Some game systems just aren't well suited to running certain kinds of games, no matter how good the adventure is. A prime example is horror in modern Dungeons & Dragons. Sure, you can run horror in modern D&D, but without significant modification, it will always be subpar and kill the tension, even in the best written game. In this case, the quote is just bad. The system really is important, even if it's just on the level of how much the system needs to be adjusted. Memes Lich stepped on the alignment landmine. Your alignment really matters, he sarcastically quipped, with a meme stating that if you're chaotic evil, you burn the orphanage, and that if you're lawful evil, you evict the orphans. Aside from this having nothing to do with alignment, and avoiding a lengthy discussion of the nuances and scope needed to classify the action, the meme coupled with the commentary is actually self-defeating. If anything, it shows alignment would matter in that sense, as the very nature of this incident in-game would be radically different based on alignment. It's murder and destruction versus having to find homes for a few kids. It's not ideal, but it's definitely a pretty big distinction in a completely different adventure. Meanwhile, my chaotic evil orcs kick the orphans out to make a base, while the lawful evil landowner is setting the kitchen on fire to collect the insurance money. So, I guess maybe that's not the distinction between lawful and chaotic evil. Generic Jenny D popped back on the scene with the gem of you can play D&D for free. No need to buy the books. Her video was all about using the SRD to run games without having to spend money on the hobby. I don't know if this is just some kind of you can boycott WotC and still play D&D cope or what it is, but the video overall is just bad advice. Her very thinly veiled endorsement of piracy aside, and even her perfectly legal use of the SRD is just a kind of a failure. The SRD is a reference document. It's in the damn name. System Reference Document. The SRD is not a rulebook, nor is it laid out or designed to be one. Learning to run and play D&D via the SRD would be an absolute nightmare. I get the feeling that this is some kind of anti-gatekeeping cope, because if you can't get access to the actual rule books, at least enough access to play the game with friends, you have big enough problems that being at a D&D table is the least of your issues and probably should be at the very bottom of your priority list. It's almost like she's getting ready to queue up an anti-gatekeeping video and is wanting to head off the, just having to buy the books is a form of gatekeeping in and of itself, non-argument that people put out. Honestly, bad takes, bad advice, and just not very well thought out. I'm sorry, Jenny, D&D is not for everyone. Sometimes the barrier to entry is for the prospective player's own good. The basic expert lands here today, not really as the subject of the video, but more as the messenger. He had an exchange with Ryan David of Nerdcognito. The thing is that Ryan David's a pretty detestable guy. He likes to pretend he's some kind of anti-cancel culture OSR warrior in the free speech trenches, but his long history of behavior shows otherwise. Ironically, he's kind of a bizarro world image of the person that he seems to hate the most. Who's that? Well, let's ask Basic Expert. Man, I'd rather have Condor DM make videos about me. He's at least more respectable and less effeminate than Ryan David and his crew. He doesn't vague post and at least has the common courtesy to name you before trash talking you. Now, this is objectively false. Condor absolutely does the exact same vague posting and not naming of names in his videos. And his posts in all of his posts, he posts on a damn near hourly basis. And there's a very simple trigger for whether or not he names people. Basic Expert also made a bit of a low-key fool of himself. He said that at least Condor put out a full game, which is very debatable given that Neo-TTRPG is a confused, barely playable mess, and then he chastised Ryan David for having a 4E clone as his favorite game. And Expert, buddy, I've been nothing but complimentary of the quality of your products. They are extremely well presented, and the setting work is exceptional. But you were talking about clones and who created complete games when your stuff is just OD&D campaign settings. You didn't put out a game, you applied a template to Whitebox. Hell, you even called it Whitebox, spelled after the undead creature. It isn't a glass house, but he's definitely throwing from a home that's made out of some questionable pressboard. He is right, though. At least Chess Pigeon DM says, I'm done with you guys. Piss off. We are enemies. There's some honesty in that. Ryan David, on the other hand, likes to talk about standing shoulder to shoulder in the shield wall against cancel culture and having each other's back. Like he's some kind of Charlie Daniels of the OSR saying, we may do some fighting amongst ourselves, but you outside folks best leave us alone. Only reason Ryan David wants to get behind you is to slip the knife in at the most opportune time for his own benefit. But there you go. Lolcow Condor and Lolclown Ryan David both trashing people without saying their names happens all the time. Unless there's a benefit, of course. Ryan David will name names when it benefits him, just like Clowndor will when, he'll name names when he thinks he can leech views off of a much larger subscriber base. He'll go out there and he'll name Pointy Hat, he'll name Jenny D, he'll name Diversity and Dragons, he'll name The Basic Expert, he'll name RPG Pundit. Basically, if you have, I'd say 3,000 to 5,000 subscribers or more, he'll name your name. He just won't name your name if you have fewer subscribers than that because he thinks that he has a bigger, stronger audience already and he can't benefit from it. That kind of leads me to Patty O'Cake's big mistake. I like Patty. He's a good dude. Talented artist, fair-minded, kind-hearted. But he took the bait. And to be fair, I did a little bit too. The chess pigeon himself, Condor DM, told the entirety of the old school community that they could all fuck off and he was done with them forever for the 5th time last week. That's the 5th time during last week, not the 5th time overall. He is done forever and moving on, and the old school is cut off, and he's never talking about them again at least 4 times a week. Well, Patty mentioned some concern for his health, as well as, his latest tirade on Rumble. He pointed out that he was being stupid again. It's like saying nicotine stained Toothless Mary in a window 3 times. You summoned the bird shit. This ended Condor's latest forever, leading to a lengthy diatribe about how Patty and Ryan David and the old school tabletop community are all trash and they're all terrible and he hates them all, and how Patty and Ryan David are exactly the same despite the fact that Ryan David was the actual target of most of what Patty had to say based on the things that Ryan David has actually done to him. And it all culminated in an invitation for Patty to go on stream on Condor's channel, and Patty accepted. And that's where he dumped intelligence. Condor has already gone on to slander Patty for 30 minutes straight since then. And we're talking in like less than 24 hours, he's already on YouTube posting a hit piece. Now, I offered publicly to host this stream as a neutral third party. And honestly, if anyone is going to have a sit down with the bird brain, that's really how it needs to happen. It isn't just that he has not earned any watch time or amplification, nor that, honestly, the best thing for everyone would be for his channel to simply fizzle out. It's that you're going in to talk with a known liar and bad actor and giving him complete control over the stream and the ability to edit and repost that stream afterwards. Honestly, I shouldn't have offered to host at all, because while it would have curtailed that little issue, it's still encouraging a bad situation. Condor is full-on delusional. His videos are replete with contradictions and outright fabrications that he, I think, honestly believes is true. This is why I call him the chess pigeon DM, because engaging with him is like playing chess with a pigeon. You make a bold opening move to challenge him, he jumps on the table, knocks over the pieces, shits on the board, and declares a victory. I do not see any good coming from this. Finally, speaking of no good, we have the folks over at Critical Role. The big news of the week is that they are not using Daggerheart for their 4th season of their YouTube D&D theater show. They're going to use Dungeons & Dragons again. And there are a lot of critiques and opinions floating around on this. There's many out there saying that they have no faith in their game and don't want it to get exposed. I disagree with that in the way it's presented. Daggerheart isn't a fully fleshed out game. It's a half-baked and gimmicky at best. But that's the thing. As a game, it's crap. But as a vessel for lightly scripted improv theater, it's more than adequate. In fact, it's almost certainly better than D&D in that capacity. The issue, I feel, is Brendan Lee Mulligan. Matt Mercer stepped away from playing the role of GM on this little teledrama, likely due to the demands of the business side of his company. He brought in probably the second most popular play-pretend streaming DM, Brendan Lee Mulligan, to fill out the role. The understudy stepping up to the main role. Unfortunately, the understudy missed a lot of rehearsal. Namely, he never learned things like basic math, or to not open his cry hole on interviews and show the entire world that he knows ass all about the games that he's supposedly a professional at running. If this clown can't even figure out THACO, which is nothing but kindergarten level subtraction, how is he supposed to run this show well? And if he already, we all already know that he is going to automatically be seen as inferior by leaps and bounds, how do they keep that bad taste from ruining the palate for the first public tasting of their brand new game? And that's my theory. Matt Mercer, he said that Mulligan is not going to compare favorably, and he doesn't want the stink from that turd getting all over Daggerheart, which he wants to sell. And unfortunately, by not using Daggerheart, he sends the message that he doesn't think his game is ready, even when it is the super elite, mega talented pro players who play tested and developed it rolling the dice. He put himself in a lose-lose with this Brendan Lee Mulligan situation. Or really, I think Brendan Lee Mulligan probably put him in a lose-lose by opening his mouth. Well, folks, that's about enough of that for the week. Please remember to check out my Patreon, follow me on X and Facebook, and do all those things, and the likes and shares and comments and stuff that the algorithm lords demand. and I will be looking forward to seeing you guys next time.